right. Thank you. Here you go.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. I appreciate that introduction. You know, the Swahili word for Holocaust is mahafal. So if you ask us how has it been in America, we say it's been a mahafal. The first words I read of Du Bois, of course, was "The Souls of Black Folks." How does it feel to be a problem? And we always need to keep that in our minds. How does it feel to be a problem? So, this play, The Most Dangerous Man in America, is going to be done in April at the New Federal Theater in New York, produced by Woody King. If you're in New York at that time, I hope you see it. And the most dangerous man in America, this is what the FBI called him at 83 years old. You know, now, if you could be that bad at 83. Da 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 da. On a bare stage, a living room, two women sit close to each other, their heads bent slightly toward each other to make certain they are heard in some vague sense of secure speech. This is right after Du Bois' first wife died, Nina Du Bois. And he had just gotten close to a woman he knew when she was 13, which was Shirley Graham, the great writer. If you don't know Shirley Graham's work, you should check it out. She was lauded as a great writer till, of course, they wanted to call her a communist, which she was. So in the first scene, Shirley Graham and her friend Ellie are sitting close to each other. And I don't know how well I'm going to read this. Ellie says, "Strange? I think it's wonderful. You got to tell me." Shirley Graham. Well, he got back to that killing schedule of his, and then you see an image of Du Bois, U.S. Senate, Vito Marcantonio, U.S. Congress. They're speaking at Madison Square Garden. Ellie, that was a great campaign. Shirley, it sure was. You know, he got 64,000 votes. Well, he came to dinner one night. I had gotten an award from the American Academy of Arts and Letters for my contribution to American literature. W.E.B. comes in and sits at the table. Shirley Graham rises as if she's bringing dessert back to the dinner table. Du Bois, I'm really proud of you winning that Academy Award. Here's a woman finishing a meal, raising a glass. Here's a woman who can write, speak, and cook. Unusual. They laugh. Du Bois, Shirley, have you ever thought of marrying again? You'd make some man a wonderful wife. Shirley, any candidates? Ellie, spot in her face as if in the same position. No, he didn't say that. Du Bois, no, he'd have to be somebody who Shirley finishes his thought, somebody I could look up to. Shirley to Ellie, I finished it for him. Du Bois, poorly stated, but probably correct. He's looking away. Don't you have anybody in mind? She looks directly in his eyes when they rest. I've had only one man in my mind for a long time. Du Bois, a slight flush comes to his cheek. So you've been keeping secrets from me. Shirley Graham, voiceover. He would go for long walks and return to find me at my typewriter. He settles himself by a window with a paperback. The previous subject was not touched on again. Elio. Well, he'd come out to St. Albans to rest. He raked leaves in the yard, built a bonfire, we drank cocoa, went to the movies, we saw Ingrid Bergman, and of course, Love Triumph. We even stopped at a corner drugstore and bought ice cream. But then when he was ready to leave, Du Bois, Shirley, you've really provided me with a haven of rest. Takes her hand very gravely. I'm a selfish old man, Shirley, and you have your father's generous goodness. I've monopolized your time and youth. It isn't fair, and I'm going to stop it. She murmurs, please don't. Voiceover. He kissed me goodbye with a gentle finality, but being a woman, I was sure I only had to wait. Ellie, so, Shirley, I didn't see him again until an emergency meeting at the Peace Center. We heard there was some investigation, something coming. We didn't know what to expect. Shirley, what happened? He wanted to take me home from the meeting, but I wouldn't hear it. The phone was ringing when I unlocked my door. There was some talk about the meeting, but then his voice took on a totally different tone. Yes. He asked me would I spend New Year's Eve with him. I said I'd love to. Ellie, okay. Shirley, so as the year 1951 rolled in, our future was settled. He kept telling me he was selfish and too old, but he didn't act old. They laughed. Shirley. I tried to hide the flow of happiness that filled my being. Undoubtedly, I've been in love with him for a long time. He dominated my life to the extent that no other man could come near me. But my love made no demands. The fact that we shared work together was enough. He's walking towards them. Shirley, but that was no longer true for either of us, Du Bois. I've been watching a whole drama being acted over here by you two. You gonna let me in on it? Shirley, you know all about it. Du Bois, what's that? Shirley, how I swept you off your feet. Du Bois, laughing, hugging her. The only sane person was her mother. She did not say that not only was I too old, but how she put it, Shirley, he mighty high hat. They all laughed. And all our plan got botched by this rogue. So I swore that would stop nothing either. Du Bois, so now, since we've already been married, we're gonna get married again. She hopes that people will stop telling her she's married to a dirty old man. Scene 2. Addressing a small crowd in the Peace Center. Shirley, and if these dogs think they'll railroad them before this shotgun wedding, they're sadly mistaken. Not only did we do it, we already married. People holler, we're gonna do it again. And they talk about that. He says Shirley wants to make sure that the shotgun is official. I'm gonna skip a little bit. I tell you, Shirley Graham was 54 years old at that time. Du Bois was 83. She met him when she was 13 years old. He came to her father's house. He was giving a speech there in Spokane, Washington. She said, child got a lot of patience. So then Ellie goes off to Washington. The next scene is the courthouse, very early in the morning. Through the window, Washington, D.C. people begin to arrive. 1, then 3, then a few. By the time the doors open, there's a large crowd. By the time the courtroom itself opens, an Ivy League-attired group from Howard University law students comes in with book bags, briefcases. They're there to check. W.E.B. voiceover discussing his intended birth party, which was coming up very soon. It's an image of a car bearing the defendants, and Vito Marcantonio, his lawyer, wheeling through Washington. Mordecai Johnson canceled too. Ralph Bunch canceled. Rabbi Silva canceled. Charlotte Brown of Palmer. Did you see this letter from the ACLU? Shirley, little small-minded cowards, it reads, my God, quote, since we did not oppose the indictment of the Nazis, we should not oppose it now merely because friends of ours are involved, unquote. That Spingarn even assured me that, unfortunate as it was, he had been given absolute proof that the charges were true. W.E.B., it doesn't surprise me. Remember when he told me that if we were going to print a running incident by incident box score of Negroes being lynched, we should also print alongside it a list of Negro crimes? Surely our friends, our benefactors, the makers of a brave new world. And so it goes on, you know, I keep switching back between the courthouse and Harlem, a barbershop, you know. Cosby asked me to write a play about Du Bois a long time ago, and he got the money, and then he decided he was gonna make a film about himself as a superhero, so that never got made. So he says, I find this offensive in the extreme. This from the Chicago Defender, quote, we deplore that Du Bois should have gotten involved with activities that have been exposed as subversive, unquote. Shirley, but the black press has been generally very supportive. Du Bois, my God, how could I ever have thought there'd be no class struggle among us? They laugh. Shirley, the association locals are demanding support for you from Walter White, the unions, even some of those you've jumped on. Then they go to the barbershop. They're talking to the barbershop. It's called the Phoenix. And the guy who runs it is named Sunday. Let's face it, the important Negroes of this country, the headliners, the highly positioned, the degreed Negroes, stayed off that petition we circulated by droves. Negroes who claim to be race champions seem like they've deserted them. Scene 3. Du Bois, you know, Shirley, the only time I had to go to court before now was for speeding somewhere. It might have been about 1918. Well, everybody agrees you move a little too fast, Doctor. They come to the courthouse. As they arrive at the courthouse, the streets outside are packed with people, slides. There are hundreds of people with Free Du Bois signs. Stop the frame up. Blessed are the peacemakers. People are everywhere. It's hard to walk. The people are everywhere as well. When W.E.B. and Shirley get out of the car, loud cheers go up. People lean over to touch him and shake his hand. There are groups of students representing defense committees from Wilberforce, University of Chicago, University of Texas, Fisk, and others. There are foreign students, unionists. We see signs and the ideas themselves as they walk by. As Shirley and Du Bois go up the steps of the courthouse, a well-dressed bureaucrat is trying to get through. Bureaucrat, who is this? Who the hell is this man, Du Bois? I never heard of him. He is talking to a lanky white southerner. I work at Justice. We're getting cables about him from all over the world. Well, they tell me if you were in darkest Africa or whitest, snowiest Russia and ask if somebody knew any Americans, 9 times out of 10 they say, yep, I heard of a man over there called Du Bois. The man tries to look, but is carried in, his arms flailing. Several of the lawyers come along with Vito Marcantonio, who's his lawyer, who was the last communist from East Harlem, the Italian section, who was in the Congress of the United States. Several other lawyers. They run up to a cop. I'm skipping. They run up into the cop. The cop says, hey, I said go outside. Du Bois, is this official? I'm one of the defendants. Cop, well, you should be in cuffs. Suddenly he pulls out the handcuffs and tries to clamp them on Du Bois. He is struggling to get them on when a photographer snaps this picture. A black attorney named Bill Dunn says, get those cuffs off, he screams, tears in his eyes. A Mississippi youth, enraged past reason, get him off, get him off, get him off. The people start to move to the scene and the cop rips off their cuffs. Other marshals arrive to escort Du Bois in. You know, go back to the barbershop. Come back to the courtroom. It's Act 3, Scene 1. Courtroom, a long string of prosecution witnesses goes on. They had 27 witnesses testifying that he was the agent of a foreign power. With dead, aggravating distortion, talking about meetings, rallies, literature distribute. They pretend sudden life like gold prospectors when they discover gold whenever the word peace is spoken. The word peace is the offending item most times. Whenever peace is said, it is like a justification for all the expended energy of the pursuit and frame up. Peace becomes the ejaculation of the dead. The jism presence, very momentary and painfully limited when they say it. Peace. Then I have the Korean War is going on then. And so I have, on the radio in the barbershop, them talking about the Korean War momentarily. 24th, mostly black infantry, jet at Chosun Reservoir. 24th Infantry registered first U.S. troops that General MacArthur sent into North Korea were the black soldiers. They fought 17 days alone. They lost 3,600 casualties. The death rate was higher than any other regiment in the Korean War. 31.5% of its black soldiers were killed. They start calling the names. Sergeant Chris Napier, PFC Rosamond Johnson, PFC Bill Johnson, PFC Wesley Derrick, Master Sergeant James P. Williams, First Lieutenant Dale Morgan, PFC Fred Marlowe. And at the Paris Peace Conference, which is what they wanted to bust him for, he's reading the names of the black dead: PFC Rodney Johnson, Sergeant Cornelius Charles, Medal of Honor winner, PFC Jackie Murdoch. And the voice becomes many voices: women, men, a mother's, a wife's, a brother. From the Civil War, East St. Louis, Brownsville, World War II, they sound like the same names. In the grim image of the slave ships, the names still ring in an African tongue, and then the same names: Johnson, Edward, Jones. Inside the courtroom, Du Bois and other defendants on one side of the rail, Shirley and other defendants' wives and husbands. Shirley Graham to Ellie: this don't make no sense. There's no evidence of anything. Ellie: yeah, where's the damning proof? Prosecution witness: it's a peacegram, Your Honor. The prosecutor's name is Madrix. He displays it like a trophy of victory. A peacegram. Mark Antonio walks over to him. Let me see that. He turns it over, says, made in Indianapolis. The crowd starts to laugh. The judge is getting more and more restive. He begins to stare at the prosecutor Madrix with each newly introduced but basically unproductive witness. His stare at Madrix is growing more and more piercing. Please, Mr. Madrix, get on with it. Ellie says, what a funny little fat man at Madrix. Judge: Mr. Madrix, the point is in this case is whether or not this organization acted as an agent or in a capacity similar to that for a foreign organization or foreign political power, whether advocating peace. State bureaucrats' eyes fly up at the mention of this sinful word. A black soldier dying in Korean battle is calling, why no peace? Peace. Father Divine speaking on the street, peace is truly wonderful. Brother Sadie coming down the street, assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum.